Welcome back, everyone. I would request you all to please settle down so that we can start. So, since we are running short of time, we'll start with our final session of today's sub-summit on quantum engineering. This session is crypto agility and quantum resiliency, crypto assessment, CBOM, QRNG, and PQC. So, I would like to call our speakers on the stage, please. Dr. Shravani Shahpure, Associate Director, Deloitte. Mr. Vinayaka Pandit, Senior Manager, IBM. Mr. Animesh Aryan, founder TechBit Labs, and I would like to call our moderator for this session, Teja Chintalapati from DSCI, please.
Oh, the places what is changed. So you have to exchange otherwise. Okay.
Uh, Hi everyone, I think welcome back again. I think after the high tea, we are all a bit high on energy. I would like to again welcome our panelists. We have such an incredible people sitting with us. Animesh, who comes primarily from a startup background, who have actually not just developed but also implemented and deployed a lot of solutions on the field. And always good to have Dr. Shravani. She was one of DSA employees before, but I never met her before today. So welcome back to the fold again, Dr. Shravani. And Vinayaka Pandit. Most of you know him. He man needs no introduction in the quantum space, right? So I look forward for discussions about this topic in the next 40-50 minutes. Again, the format will be similar. We'll ask some questions to you any point in time. You can feel free to ask any question that you feel that one of the speakers can take up, right? So with that, my first question is for Vinayaka Panditji. Vinayaka ji, essentially crypto agility and quantum resiliency, right? So they are often discussed in tandem, right? How do you define these terms in your terminology?
Yeah, let's first talk about quantum resiliency, right? So, what the concept of quantum resiliency comes from this fear that when we are able to realize quantum computers that have sufficient quantum computing power to actually break the traditional cryptographic algorithms that we use today, right? So, we are not there yet, and there are various different estimates as to when we might get there, right? But whenever we get there, if we continue to use the cryptographic algorithms that we use today, we are in danger, because we have algorithms, including the Shor's algorithm, which can break almost all the fundamental algorithms that we use, right? So the quantum resiliency is basically a notion of developing cryptographic algorithms and protocols based on certain assumptions, which are robust, even based on the hardness of certain problems, which are known to be hard even for quantum computers to break, right? So that is quantum resiliency. Now, crypto agility is a much broader concept, and I must say that at this point in time, it is more a kind of a state that we want to get to,
Yeah.
rather than us being actually there, right? And this comes from the fact that this problem with like the traditional algorithms in the face of powerful quantum computer is just an instance of several situations that we run into, where you have some problem with the crypto protocols that you are using, right? And you want to actually change your systems. But today, the way the applications are developed, right? Most of the time, things like security and cryptography are more an afterthought, and they are incorporated into your applications and your IT infrastructure in a very ad hoc manner,
Yeah.
right? And therefore, just figuring out, what are exactly the things that get affected because of a certain development in the field, and then how to change them. Today is a very time consuming and error prone process, right? So crypto agility is a concept which says that we should standardize the usage of crypto in our applications in such a way that in a very agile manner we can move from one set of protocols to another in a more straightforward and a predictable manner, right? So it requires, of course, many tools which we can talk about, but that's the core concept.
Perfect, perfect. So my next question is for Animesh, right? So Animesh, essentially, now I think the last 2 years I've shown the stick to everyone, right? Essentially, it's going to come, it's going to impact you, it's going to impact your industry, and so on and so forth. So, in your opinion, what are some of the industries that needs to really look at crypto agility and building quantum resiliency as of today, not in the next 1 year, not in the next 2 years, but as of today?
Hello. Yeah. So thank you, Teja. I think the companies, or let's say the organizations who are holding data, or who are who hold data which is critical and have to be resilient for the next couple of years, let's say 3 to 5 years plus, are the ones who have to adapt immediately. While if you look at the industry verticals that we're talking about, I think it's going to be data centers primarily, because they hold bulk of the data, then larger organizations, and also healthcare. Now, if you look at some geographies have the mandate to safeguard one's health data for the entire lifetime. Now, you cannot address such a requirement without looking at what risk the data poses due to the advancement of quantum computers. So Vinayakji's mentioned about crypto agility and quantum resilience. Now, if you look, crypto agility, as he mentioned, is a larger concept which has evolved. It's since we talk about cryptography, right? We always look at what kind of risk and things are there and how do we address it. So we have upgraded ourselves from RSA from 1977 to going to RSA 2048 today. It has also gone under successive expansions, right? We are trying to see that how difficult it is for somebody to break it. Now, 8 years ago, when NIST came up with quantum resilience, it not only talks about the software part, which is PQC, but also the hardware part, right? And both the solutions have different offerings on the table. So, for some data, which is going to be a hardware-based solution, and for some, when you look at a larger application in place, we have to look at PQC, right? And it is imperative for the companies to be to be more aggressive in adapting, because even adaptation is a lengthier process, right? It cannot be today, maybe I'm using a PQC solution, but you are not. So the risk of data harvest is always there, and you have to look at what is going to happen 5 year or 10 year down the line, and not like the earlier sessions where we talk about CrowdStrike, right? It's all about where you have not looked at the risk, and the risks are eventually for all organizations, if we speak, because most of the data that we have today has become digital. So we have to look at these core areas which I mentioned, and obviously the easier methods are PQC, because it has a lower cost of ownership to start with. But if you look 2 years ago, some of the initial candidates were broken, right?
Yeah.
So there's also some risk where we have to, actually put multiple solutions together. So our company is focused on putting both of them, these solutions, which is a hardware and a software solution, together as an offering. So yeah, that's me.
That's good.
Thank you.
So next question is for Dr. Shravani. I think one last panel, and Neelajji certainly talked about essentially when someone has to look at building quantum resiliency in their organization, they need to have let's say something like a cryptographic bill of materials, and essentially have it take an asset of their inventory and then categorize them into risk, which of these assets are taking the most risk. In your opinion, what are some of the tools that are there? You come from the core crypto background, right? So what are some of the tools that makes this possible from a technical standpoint?
So thank you so much. It's really nice and important question, what I feel. First, I would like to thank Teja. I'm feeling like back home, DSCI, after a long time. And this is my first physical event, although I have attended some of the virtual ones. So thank you so much for that. Before answering to your question, right? So like cryptography, bill of material, and all those things. I was attending some of the previous sessions, and quantum computing, that question I normally get from the industry, whether it is really happening. And I am doing extensive study on whether it is really happening, because unless and until people are getting convinced that it is happening, there will not be an investment. And cybersecurity always has a budget crunch, that we have already listened to so many people in the previous sessions. So first and very important thing is that the threat is real.
Yeah.
Yes. About the timeline, I have listened to so many people. They are just talking about, like we have time from about 2030
30,
and yes,
40.
yes. So Professor Mosca, which I follow extensively, so he has written one paper in 2022 where he has given a timeline which is talking about 2030. So and then I was like, okay, we still have a time, because that's how industry think. And then I had come across the recent paper which was published by Gartner. It's now only 2 years. Now the timeline has shifted to 2029.
Oh.
Okay, so it's moving faster. In that paper, Professor Mosca has given couple of the things where people are only talking about the Shor's algorithm and Grover's algorithm, right? But coming from a cryptanalyst background, actually I'm not a cryptographer as such, I'm a cryptanalyst, which prefer to break ciphers.
Yeah.
So I've seen that when it comes to research, right, although there are estimations, like 10 years, 5 years, 2 years, 3 years, there can be a sudden breakthroughs, and we cannot say that it will definitely be a 10 years. It can be a next day, somebody will come up with a saying that, okay, I broke that already 237, that initial session we have listened, right?
Yeah.
So that paper is already there. Now when it comes to China, nobody wants to take a risk. I mean, it's always a black box like a quantum. So yeah, that part we can keep aside. Now, when we know that there is a threat, how much timeline we have, that we have to actually look into. And then 2029, if I'll give some benefit of doubt to myself, right? So 2029, how much time I have? So I have to complete my process before that, right? So I need some time for an experimentation. 2027 to 2029, I'll take 1 or 2 years to see whether the implementation has done properly or not. I have reached to crypto agility, which are topic which we'll be discussing later. So then do an backward calculations. How much time we have is 5 years. Now, coming back to the digital India landscape, I'm not going global, because I've done that research extensively on that as well. But then if you'll see, each and every day, people are coming with the new applications, IoT devices, getting plugged in. We don't know even, right? OT, IT environments, IT was quite, stick together. But when it was OT previous years, it was quite isolated. People could able to, do that isolation properly. But now with introduction to IT and remote access,
Convergence. Yeah.
the convergence has happened. So now if you will try to understand the landscape, is huge. It's huge. So do we have a time? 5 years, 6 years, 7 years? It's a question to an audience. Like, think from your own organization perspective. Second very important thing is that crypto bill of material, your question what you have asked, which is very important. This concept has come from the SBOM.
Yeah.
Software bomb. Right? So what are the different software, and then what are the different components those are related to that? Now this concept I've tried to understand this concept on a different level, different angle. Then CBOM was also considered as a compliance bill of material, and then now they are considered as a cryptography bill of material. So it is not only like a components. We have to actually understand what are the different algorithms, what is the key size, key management, where deep-rooted it is. Because for me, some people say crypto is just a library. It's not like that, actually. Second very important thing is that there are different things, right? So we have like cloud hypervisors, we have in-house applications, we have some security solutions, we have hardware devices where cryptography is inbuilt. Do we really know where our cryptography is? That is the first question. I think 99% of organizations, they don't know. Before going for cryptography or CBOM, I would definitely recommend that each organization should have cryptographer or a crypto expert in that. That is also suggested by NIST and top-notch organizations, because if you'll ask somebody, do you understand crypto? People say no. Even they know the RSA, what exactly the key size, what it should be, and whether if I'll just upgrade the key size to 2048 to 4096, will it impact my services? We don't know, right? So first and important thing is that we should have somebody who understands this. Then we are trying to understand how we can gather this crypto bill of material, means what is the cryptography that has been used, what are the algorithms, what is the key size. Then there are a couple of things like, crypto is, again, there are a lot of things. I would like to, use this forum. People use crypto for a blockchain.
Yeah.
Sorry to say that, this is our word, cryptography. So, and it is nothing to do with crypto coin, right? So, and many places now, cryptographers are extensively using and stating that crypto is for cryptography. And then second very important thing is that people think crypto means encryption.
Yeah.
That is a lot of myths, right? Lot of myths, lot of things are there. So even before that, I would like to say awareness sessions are very important. People should know what we are doing, why we are doing, and how it is important. And then coming back to the CBOM, those who know cryptography well, hashing is again there, right? It's not only the encryption RSA, it's not AES. So a lot of things are there. Now, if you'll see closely, the NIST has published in June 12, there was an conference or, had happened where now they started talking about the AES. I was having this question since 6 years when I was studying about the asymmetric key algorithms, that they have come up with this competition, why people are not thinking on symmetric key. Because I've met a couple of scientists, those who are actually trying to break AES, and they have the solution available. So, but now, if you'll see the document on June 12th, NIST is saying that the modes that we are using, like CBC mode, GCM mode, ECP mode, some of the modes, they are already weak. Like we don't use them as CBC and all. Do people know what modes they are using in the organization? I have a doubt. Second very important thing is that some people, they say, okay, we are happy with GCM because GCM is one of the finest one, but there are some couple of problems associated with it. So NIST has proposed now new vertical where they are now thinking about different kind of mode which can go for AES. Reason being, they are not going for a different algorithm from AES because AES has to some extent proven is the post-quantum cryptographic algorithm. Right? So it's a long, I may take another 15-20 minutes. I just wanted to wind up, like cryptography bill of material is not only just one piece, it's huge. So understand it, we should have awareness sessions. We should know, we should tell organizations that, look, it's not like, the debates are going on, please get ready for your next action, and for that you should have your cryptography inventory ready, where you should know what all assets are there. Where, see, I'll give you a last example, one example, and I'll stop on that. We have encountered one attack, and then people have started running. That's how the security community, they do, and then they realize that it's a cloud structure, and it's full provide. What is wrong with cloud? And then they realize that encryption knob is not on. Right? So these kind of things are happening in the organization. They are not even understanding that encryption is not on, and this because of that, disaster can happen. So you have to take cryptography seriously. I think digital transformation is going on a high speed, right? And it should go along with it. I don't want to take more time.
So I'll come to Animesh right now, right? Animesh? No, it's back on. So you have deployed products in the field, right? On using PQ post-quantum crypto products in the field, right? So what are some of the things that organizations have to keep in mind when they are essentially deploying post-quantum products in their environment? So crypto agility can be one,
Right.
but what are the other things that you interestingly talked about? Don't trust algorithm right now. Let's say some algorithm gets broken, so post quantum algorithm gets broken, let's say 2-3 years down the lane, how quickly you change. So other than that, what else does the organization have to keep in mind when they are going about this plan of building quantum resiliency
Right.
in their environment?
Sure. Yeah, that's a very interesting question, Teja. I think I have a slightly different position to what Dr. Shravani was mentioning.
Okay.
Well, the risk about quantum is real.
Yeah.
I think that the earlier sessions and the earlier panelists have already spoken about it. I think what the question is, when will this happen? And if you look at from a security perspective, I don't think that we should worry about the will part. I'll explain this with an example. I'm sure that all the business owners who have physical buildings, they have done the waterproofing, right? Now this is not designed that when it will rain, you will start waterproofing, right? You do it in advance. So you know that at some point of time, it's going to rain and you will do the waterproofing before that. Now, our organization believes that to do the quantum proofing of your data, you don't even have to think about the timeline, because as she was mentioning, it is not about 5 years, 6 years, 8 years. I mean, who actually imagined CrowdStrike would happen, right? It happened. So such is the case with even quantum. Today, whether we look at the Chinese scientists who are working on breaking RSA and other things, some of these things we don't even know, and we don't even have a control on the data that is going out. So if you look at the solutions which are available, one always wants to de-risk themselves, right? You will use multiple layers of encryption. You can also use, you also try to work with different vendors for solutions like this, right? So when I mentioned about solutions, what we talk about is working at both the physical layer, for which you need a hardware security, right? You need a solution which can work at that level. And when you look at multiple solutions in place, and application layer where you can have a PQC and which can give you strengthen it, right? So I think that all cryptographers want that the cryptography like an onion, right? You have slices and layers of security. So the better layered it is, it's beneficial, right? So I think when we look at deployments, some of the key things is, what are the challenges? Like, is it that all data that you have today has to be safeguarded? Some of the data is not meaningful, for tomorrow. So you don't have to worry. So you mentioned about Dr. Mosca. So Dr. Mosca has also come up with an inequality, which actually talks about who are the business owners who have to be worried about it. So if you have your shelf life of your data, which is going to be, let's say, 5+ years, and your transition time from your legacy solutions to a quantum safe solution, it could be PQC, it could be QKD, you would need at least 3 to 5 years. So we are looking at the best case, a decade, right? And this is quite greater than when we look at large scale quantum computers in place. So the risks are, like, you have to identify what is the critical data that you need to safeguard. And obviously all the organizations also hesitate. There is also some bit of whether we look, can we trust this? Because there are also policy level change is required. So we talked about the United States government has issued a circular for upgrading to quantum safe solution by 2025. I believe that kind of a mandate or policy level change will actually push the business owners as well to look for solutions, because now there is a compliance, and I think as a compliance we all do that, right? So I believe that is very critical for business owners. And the challenge is, as I said, right, that what are you trying to address? Some of the things could be building the core network, which would need a hardware solution. And some of the things can also use a software stack, like, let's say, when you can have PQC. And of course, we can have different, there are some hybrid schemes also available today where you can use classical ECDH along with, post-quantum algorithm. So I believe it has to be a more aggressive effort rather than thinking when it will rain. right? It's important that we actually take that, aggressively and start adapting those solutions. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
So, Vinayaka ji, then coming to you, right? So essentially, any organization that, let's say, deciding to have build quantum resiliency in their in their environment, first thing that everyone says is ki do a risk assessment and then see ki which needs to be protected first. You can't protect everything on day zero, day one, right? So how should and then we talked about CBOM and taking asset inventory, IT asset inventory and everything. So how should essentially organizations go about even doing vulnerability assessment that will essentially because of the whole quantum computing based attacks coming into the organizations, how should even one go about doing a risk assessment of their infrastructure for quantum threats?
Yeah, so I think if you go to any like large enough enterprise, right? So they have such a complex
Yeah.
IT infrastructure and application landscape that the first thing that we recommend that they should do is to first do a business assessment of different parts of their IT infrastructure and the application landscape to identify which are the ones which use a lot of business sensitive data
Yeah.
or business sensitive application
Applications.
part, right? So and kind of do an assessment of what is the business implication of any compromise on that, right? So this is more a really I would say an assessment exercise which will include experts of your own, intra enterprise experts who know the entire landscape very well, and consultants who will be able to assess what is the impact and identify what is really the real subset that you want to look for assessment, right? After that, as Shravani said, the first thing that we recommend that you should do is to come up with a cryptographic inventory, right? Of the an inventory of all the crypto assets that you have, right? So again, it depends on whether you are an enterprise or you are like a software development house, right? So you need to look at these two organizations need to look at it from a different angle, but for this audience, let's say it's more the enterprise angle, right? The user angle. So then you really have to look at all the different layers where the crypto artifacts lie, right? Right from your servers and all the certificates, keys, and then what kind of network traffic, what are the protocols that are being used, what are the key sizes, everything, right? So that is your cryptographic inventory, right? And then you come up with a cryptographic bill of material from that, and then the vulnerability assessment is really based on your appetite for risk, right? I mean, you have to define what are the policies by which you will identify something is at risk and something is not at risk, and you may use the parameters like the Moscas theorem, which says if your shelf life plus the migration time, if that is greater than the quantum readiness, then you have to do it. And then you have to come up with remediation, right? Again, there you need automated tools which can help you to kind of remediate your applications, right? So these are all the different steps that you need to take, and you need to have tools for each one of these things, right? I mean, you need discovery tools for building the inventory, and then you need the assessment tool to assess the vulnerabilities, and then you need remediation tools which will do remediations at different levels, right from traffic to code to your container images, libraries that you are using, how to replace those libraries. So you need to employ all these things.
All right, good. So Animesh, coming to you, I think this will be a bit of a tricky question for you, right? So essentially, let's say PQC has been there now. At least NIST has standards, but it's been discussed from the last 3-5 years, right? In your opinion, why there's still a hesitancy in adoption of PQC solutions, knowing the risk exists? What is the hesitancy that you see in the actual industries adopting the post-quantum solutions? And perhaps Dr. Shravani can add to that.
Sure. Yes. Uh, like I think, like when all of quantum resiliency started back in 2016, when NIST started working on different candidates for quantum safe algorithm. One of the algorithms which got broken in 2022 built a lot of distrust, because so imagine you are selling, we are talking about being resilient to quantum computers, while the risk is from a classical computer, right?
Yeah.
So this was broken. So that actually built a lot of distrust. Okay, so a lot of the business owners and the clients that we talk to often come up with this analysis and say that, what is the proof that this new algorithm won't be broken, right? Now, without getting into the technicalities of it, and without throwing some technical jargons, what we have to do is that look at it from a business owner's perspective, and that question is real. It's true that how do you make sure that you have this algorithm won't be broken, right? So that is where a hybrid form where like if you are actually also not trusting your current solution, I believe you better diversify, so you can use a hybrid encryption in place, adding a post quantum layer. That is how probably this can be addressed. And the second solution to this is not everybody, not every solution or every problem can be solved by one solution. I think this is what we have also learned through, otherwise asymmetric cryptography was doing fine, right? Now you talk about even risk with AES, right? And then we will only have one time pad probably which will only work, but then it also increases your computational time and all of those things, right? So I believe that with a combination, one has to look at how critical the data is. As we speak, a lot of our data that we have today gets harvested. So you don't even have a control and how your data is getting harvested. So using hardware solutions, you can limit what data is getting harvested, by eavesdroppers. And the second part could be applying a post-quantum cryptography, and also assessing, who are the people, because you often, you are as good as your weakest link, right? So there could be something, which you have adopted a third-party application which you're not even sure of. This is very critical in the case of fintech organizations, because their financial data is going to be meaningful for at least a decade, if not less, right? And how do you assess? So in such scenarios, you must have a two-pronged approach to assess what are the risks and what are the solutions, what legacy systems you have been using, and how can you upgrade to a post-quantum thing. At the same time, also looking at newer solutions, because all of this also eventually your data eventually sits somewhere, right? So you have to also have that kind of a ground level encryption in place. I think that is how probably you can address this. As a solution provider, we often think that every time a client would ask that, okay, nothing has happened till now, and that is a very hard
question to answer,
thing to convince, right? But this is again I take that this is our understanding of situation. You do not know who is holding your data. You have no idea how your data is getting harvested, right? So one is that you can just sit back and relax, and someday there is going to be a catastrophic event. Or you can be agile, you can look at what are the risks you have, because it's a very complex architecture, right? You build your own solution, you take some things from outside, you have third-party integration, and all of this is such a complex thing that you need, like with the crypto agility part, that you have to have a more comprehensive overview of the software architecture or data, what are the things that you are actually working with, and then implement your solution from the design part, not from just a tactical position that something has come up, let's fix this, right? It has to happen right from the design part, that you include, and that's where you mentioned the first thing, that crypto agility and quantum resilience are often synonymous,
Yeah.
right? And I think that also comes from because the current things that we look at, if quantum is removed, things are already kind of working. But it is with the advent of quantum computing that risks are there. And you have to look at how can you make the solutions right from the design perspective, right? You can start implementing those solutions from the design side. Yeah.
Dr. Shravani, you want to add very quickly to essentially why you see hesitation till now?
Instead of
Yeah.
addressing that, I think I didn't address your first question. That is about tools, which
Yeah.
I missed. Yeah. So I would like to say there is no one tool which is available which can give the complete visibility. So there are multiple tools, those are available in the market, but none of the tool is saying that you can get 100% visibility on your cryptography in the organization. So it's again a strategic thing, how you are, whatever tools are already there, like what organizations are using, and your own understanding on a manually how you can access the data and the systems. That is how we need an crypto or a quantum safe expert in the organization till we are having the foolproof tool available. So that is the answer to your first question. So about this PQC, like why people are still hesitant. So correctly say that these algorithms are still new.
Yeah.
And when it comes to cryptography and cryptanalysis, they are like they play around with each other. So one is proposing, one is breaking, one is proposing, one is breaking, and then this competition remains forever, right? So and it's like a game for them, but it's very dangerous for others, those who are actually using them. But for a cryptanalysis, it's kind of a joy that they could able to break an hardest algorithm, and that's the reason people always look for any solutions, right? What NIST has suggested, they have clearly given an timeline how you can migrate. First is whatever you have already, that is RSA, go for a hybrid. But there are again different forms, whether you want to go for concatenated or one after another, a lot of things are there. And then once your organization or this PQC algorithms are settled, then you migrate completely to PQC. Second very important thing is that we should also look for an alternative which is called as the QKD. Of course, the QKD solutions are not yet standardized. There are a couple of problems associated with the endpoint devices, but a lot of solutions has come up, and people are so we have to think a strategy, and it should be a roadmap. It cannot happen overnight, right? So having a complete roadmap for about 3 to 5 years will help organization to put up a money in a right way and then safeguard their systems.
So just wanted to add something, right? Like in terms of the resistance for adoption, I mean, we have to face it that PQC comes with a cost, right? I mean, the cost at the key size level as well as ciphertext level, there's a computational cost, and then there is a very, very significant migration cost, right? So they are definitely barriers. So, and that's why the business asks, okay, how real is the threat? So I think we have to be respectful of that as a community. While we have to encourage people to do experimentation and go over a path of gradual adoption, at least that's my feeling. And second thing is that you must understand that there are big incumbents of traditional cryptography, right? I mean, if any of you have been to the RSA conference, and if you attend I forget what is that particular session called, like one of the RS or A will be there who conduct a particular discussion, and all those discussions are available on YouTube. And if you see that, you can easily get a sense of the fact that there are incumbents who would like to preserve their incumbency as long as possible. So that aspect also is there, right? I think just wanted to say that. And QKD, I mean, it's a very interesting thing, but I think we must keep in mind that there is this, from the spectrum of application point of view, the public key infrastructure is actually very, very important, right? The asymmetry it provides in terms of, with one key you being able to communicate with a large number of people is very important. That's why, and QKD does not give you a solution there, right? So that's why PQC is important, and And I think as a community, if we are in enterprises who need to do this adoption, and as technologies who need to kind of accelerate this, I think we should try to go on this firmer path of experimentation, success, gradual adoption, and so on.
Yeah, just I want to add a point to what Vinayji said. So something that you mentioned about the RSA White Hat conferences and all, yes, that is true, because it also fuels that there is nothing to worry about, which is not the case. And you know, if you look at the current solutions which we have today, I think there is immense push, because most of the questions, and you know, we have come up with clients who say that, okay, but nobody has broken it yet, right? And that's a position. So that is something where we also want them to also make them understand, and that's where the education and someone on working as a cybersecurity expert in quantum technologies, or let's say in quantum safe solution, becomes imperative, because the risk about quantum cannot be understood by someone who has no knowledge about what quantum computing can do, right? So that's where having the right information and education about what are the risks posed by quantum computers. The second point, I think, is also with solutions. If you look at, let's say, what a quantum key distribution system does, right? It helps you control your data. So if someone is actually trying to intercept your data, you can actually figure that out in real time. Yeah. So you are also, to some degree, you can also control what data is out or is getting intercepted. If you add this kind of a solution with a PQC, I believe that we will slowly and eventually evolve into something called as quantum internet, where you will have these kinds of solutions built in, right? But of course, there's a roadmap as to how all of these things will start coming, because a lot of the strength about also PQC also requires a very fast, a quantum device called as QRNG, and that is also very critical to give you new kind of keys for your, cryptographic requirement, right? So I think that it's going to be not only our reliance on one solution, but also hybrid solutions which are going to give you a more faceted security rather than just relying on one. I think that's going to be very critical.
So I'll add one point on a quantum computing side, right? So people are saying that only quantum computing is bringing threat. So it's not like that. Even people, those who are into the classical cryptography community, they are still trying to figure out if there is a better way to break RSA, and by using the supercomputer or another approaches. So people are not only from the quantum computing community, but from the cryptography classical community, they are attacking on it. So people should not only think that only quantum can bring a threat. There are cryptanalysts, those who are trying to push and prove themselves that they are better. So, so threat is real. It's from all sides.
Very quickly, I'll go to the audience and then I'll come back to the panelists. Any question from the audience? Yes, please.
Hello? Yeah, I think this is working. Are we defining the problem correctly? I'll explain what I mean. Let's take cybersecurity. Okay, I am working in this industry for a long time, cybersecurity. I can say if a company data is hacked, 22% of the companies will close if it is a minor hack. 72% of the companies close within 5 years if it is a major hack. Okay, so that's a strong statement for the businesses. Let's move on to AI. Artificial intelligence, if the companies are using, their productivity will enhance by 2 times, 3 times. It will bring business benefits. You can do the coding, you can reduce the headcount. So, I can go on, okay? So here, if I just compare these buckets, I'm able to define the business benefits or the risk very clearly with these things. But with crypto, is there anything that you guys can define in that quantitative manner which will kind of give a push?
Oh, so you're talking about the risk matrix, is it? Okay. So it's a good question, and then people are actually thinking about how to calculate that risk, right? So there are three parameters normally people consider. That is, what is the time of that data, then how much scalable it is, whether it is growing, and third parameter is how important that data is. And every parameter you can quantify from 1 to 5, and then you multiply, and then there is a risk matrix, right? And then depend on your company's appetite. Again, see, I cannot put, it's a common practice in cybersecurity that we cannot apply risk matrix everywhere, because every company has their own appetite, right? So we have to decide what my company's objective is, what is my data, what data, what is the timeline of that data, what is how much important that data is, and whether the data will scale up. Based on that multiplication, then you define the threshold, and then you decide which data you wanted to go for it, right? And then this will give you clear picture which data you wanted to actually safeguard, and then you can decide a roadmap based on that. So there are a couple of things which I've already given by NST very nicely, that how you can actually build a roadmap, whether you really need an QKD, where you should use QKD, where you should use PQC, how you should achieve in crypto agility, right? So all this has been, so that's the reason, it's a broad topic, right? So in 50 minutes it's not enough to explain all these things, but yes, there are a couple of matrices, and the parameters has been clearly given, that how you can actually start looking into that. I hope I answered your question.
Any other question? Yes, ma'am, please. Yeah.
So this is regarding the hesitation in adoption of PQC. So now PQC and QKD have been there for the past decade or so.
Yeah.
And we have been using RSA, which is most popular. We've been using other systems also, but mainly RSA is talked about for several decades, starting 76, right? So now the trust hasn't been built up so easily. It has come up only with the usage. And because there have been so many communities of researchers who've been working on cracking RSA, right, for several years.
Yeah.
And these teams comprise researchers from across countries. There are teams like super cryptographers, around 20, teams of that bigger size. So because they have not been able to, we've not been able to factorize those 2048, and hence that confidence has come in. We cannot have that trust suddenly, for PQC and QKD. And one thing, PQC and QKD are not mutually exclusive, they have to be used in tandem. QKD is essentially only for the key distribution, and then for the data encryption, which is voluminous, we prefer PQC, right? So I feel that trust issue will be built over time, but that should not stop us from moving in that direction.
Good. Okay. Thanks for the comment.
Yeah. I just I have a couple of comments on that point that you mentioned. First, when you look at RSA, in 1977, RSA claimed that the keys won't be broken for the next 10,000 years. Okay,
Yeah.
It broke in less than 17 years.
Right.
Okay, now what happened? You actually expanded the keys, and that's how it has transitioned from 512 to 1024 to 2048. Now, if you look at what is the core of the problem, it is, we talk about what you call as the mathematical complexity, how hard it is to crack the keys, right? And that's where RSA, I'm giving a conservative estimate, but RSA 2048, if any researcher is aware of all of these things, will say that it will roughly take the fastest supercomputer on the planet about 300 trillion years. Okay, now the catch is only for this classical or the traditional computers. For a quantum computer with about 5,000 stable qubits, it is less than a couple of hours. So the risk is that what you thought as impossible is possible using quantum computers. Now that is the risk which has brought solutions like PQC or QKD. PQC only gained traction after quantum computers started to materialize, because people thought it's going to take long time before quantum computers will come in. And if you look at the latest development, or let's say what IBM has been developing, what they have developed in the last 2 years is way more than what they developed in the last 8 years, right? So because now now it is only an engineering problem, where you have to scale and build large-scale quantum computers, right? So if you look at this post-quantum solutions, one has to look at how also test the veracity, of course, and as you said, that the trust will take a long time, but the risk will not be, the risk can happen.
I also said that doesn't stop us from moving
Correct.
forward.
Yes, I agree with you on that part. Yes.
Because trust has to be built among the users.
Right.
But as technology people, we have to move and find
Correct.
solutions.
Absolutely. No, it was just more of a kind of a remark on why the classical cryptographers, or like let's say someone from public key cryptography, emphasize that this is safe, which is not the case.
No, they don't say.
So.
And when you say public key cryptography, it is only a few kinds of problems that are targeted by quantum, not
right.
all.
Not all, yes.
When you're talking about post-quantum,
yes,
they are actually following the public key paradigm also.
Correct.
If you go into the details of the algorithms, post-quantum cryptography is actually the public key paradigm cryptography only.
It's a quantum equivalent,
key,
yes.
Only the hardcore problems on which the systems are based, they are different. Right. It was those Diffie-Hellman and the factorization,
Yes.
Those are the problems that get solved in polynomial time using the quantum computers.
So I'll add here,
like lattice. Let me come.
lattice. Yeah.
We have
Post-quantum, there is lattice.
just 3-4 minutes, so we'll just I'll have one.
This topic, Teja, is
Actually, it's so you provoked us.
this topic can go for 3 hours, 4 hours. It's that interesting topic.
Yes,
but I would like to comment on what ma'am is trying to say. One minute. So what we are talking about the period of 30 years, right? 30 more than that, 30 years or 40 years, RSA couldn't break. That is because the computational power was not there.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
And then that's the
Technology was
reason.
not there, and then there was the algorithmic development was also not there.
Not because
Now we
people
have
were
algorithms.
happy,
Yes. Now we have algorithms which were not there earlier, like number field sieve and all. They were not there at the time when they commented like that.
Yeah, correct. And
So
second,
of course,
very
there have been
important.
development on the technological front as well as the mathematical algorithmic front.
And second, very important thing is that if you'll see from the cyber security perspective, after COVID, the digital transformation was taking up, right? But remote working, data getting transferred, all these things started, moving faster. So, and if you'll see the investment in quantum computing, that has been spiked up after 2022. Right, so because now everything is going remote, RSA and extensively has been used. Let me address this and solve the problem. So this is how the community actually works.
Amit, you have a question.
Hi, good evening everyone. My name is Amit Rao. I represent IoT Security Foundation. So where I'm coming from is how the Q-Day would impact the embedded system. So specifically in context to say automotive connected vehicles and say connected healthcare, right? Medical devices, that is. Could you give some practical examples of how crypto agility can be achieved? Because
regarding
these
IoT devices, embedded
for
devices.
embedded devices, right? Because automotive system would a connected vehicle ECU would be in the field for 10 to 15 years. A medical connected device, we are talking 15-20 years kind of a lifetime. So can you give some practical examples of how crypto agility can be achieved?
So if you look at the current situation and you look at automotive industry and you look at driverless cars, I think this is a huge risk. Without naming the company, a German automotive company actually had something compromised, where the vehicle was accessed and the cryptographic algorithms were broken. So if you look at when you look at IoT or embedded systems, we are way behind because we used very I would say basic or early methods which should not be, right? So because nobody actually cares. If you look at all the IoT devices which are in place, all of these are typically just sensors, right? They'll give you pings. But when you combine this along with, in let's say something like an automotive, it becomes very risky because you never know how this entire thing can be broken. So a lot of actually automotive industries are actually also focusing on building resiliency. Now, it is not only about quantum; it could be even an application layer issue.
So I'll address your question. So when it comes to IoT devices, right? NIST has already come up with lightweight cryptography competition that has been already done, and then standards are out. There are ciphers are available which you can implement. Now, coming back to the question of crypto agility cannot be achieved overnight, right? It's a very long drawn process. First and very important thing is that there are a couple of stages, right? So whether we are systems, our legacy systems, can that be quantum safe, upgradable? Whether the algorithm which is available, can we upgrade without disturbing the flow of information, without disturbing the infrastructure? A lot of things are there that we have to consider. So if I want to address the problem immediately and try to achieve crypto agility in 1 or 2 years of time, it's not possible. We have to have a proper strategy to achieve it. There are a lot of challenges because when it comes to cryptography piece, it's mostly is the complexity, right? Those are the complex operations, and if I go for the simplicity that normally people do, they cut down the key size and then they compromise, a lot of things. So that is the first important thing, is that then do we have the resources like FPGA? Can my piece of cryptography go on that? Can it run on that, right? And these are some parameters we have to consider while we are actually achieving this. So to some extent, NIST has given the crypto agility stages. So there are 5 stages, which talks about the devices what I have. If it is a 0, that means I cannot do anything. So I have to find out some solution, whether I have to replace that system, I have to place something in front of it to achieve the crypto agility. Second stage says that, okay, I can possibly go for an upgradation. Third stage is like, okay, I have achieved that. So these are 5 stages where you can actually reach to the crypto agility, not over time. But that's the reason, this problem is addressed as a gigantic, it's a big problem. And people are not understanding because they think crypto is a library. So that is what the problem with community. So you having an awareness, understanding your own cryptography, and then understanding how big a problem is. It's a very important thing.
So one last point of question, right? Each one of you, can you in one sentence tell us, if one wants to go about building quantum resiliency in their enterprise, what is one piece of critical advice that you give in one sentence, if you can share?
I think, as I said, right, I think I would say first do an assessment, then do an inventory.
Perfect.
And
Dr.
then
Shravani?
vulnerability analysis.
This is not fair, actually. One sentence I cannot. But I'll definitely try to address in such a way that you should have a crypto expert. Sorry to say that, but you should have a person who understands cryptography. Then only that person will tell the organization how big a problem you are in, and then only you can take a further steps.
Animesh?
So Teja, I don't know whether this suits, but probably I think there are 2 kinds of people. One who know that they have been compromised and others who don't. Okay. So I think that same goes for quantum as well. You know that the risks are there. Yeah. So either it is for you to know and figure out and, build a solution in solving that, or else you be
Good.
Compromised, yeah.
Good. With that, I think we are running terribly short on time. With that, I'll close the discussion for today. Thank you so much for your presence today, and I hope you had an informative session. And so, with that, we will close the Sub-Summit, Quantum Engineering Sub-Summit for today. But we do have, in the same ballroom, we have Enterprise AI and Governance at 6:15 at GBR2. And after that there'll be dinner and cocktails. So I look forward to having you for dinner, and thank you so much for such a wonderful panelist, and thank you for such an engaging audience.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thank you so much.